What's going on? Welcome to Game Time Decisions right here on SportsGrid. My name is Tom Vecchio. We have a loaded show as usual. There's a ton going around the sports landscape. We have another full slate of MLB to get to. Myself, Joe Raineri will be joining me in just a few minutes. We have even more NFL news as we are getting that every single day. And we are also just another day closer into Saturday for week 0 of the college football season. There's a ton to break down. We went through some of the important notes yesterday that we started getting rolling in. We now know that Deshaun Watson is the Browns starting quarterback. He won that job over Shedeur Sanders. We discussed this in depth yesterday. I think this is largely due to the Browns just wanting to start Watson because they paid him a ton of money, and eventually they will be moving to Sanders a little bit later in the season. One of the notes that we didn't specifically touch on yesterday was the Ashton Jeanty news for the Raiders about the apparent leg injury that he suffered over the weekend. We alluded to the Raiders yesterday. We spoke about their season schedule, what are our expectations for the Raiders, but it was a little bit touch and go for Jeanty, and as the hours went on, we got more and more information. It apparently is not a knee injury. It is more of an ankle injury, and it is also apparently not a high ankle sprain, which is great news. It is apparently a lower ankle sprain, which is ultimately what you want to see for a running back. High ankle sprains for any position can be absolutely devastating. We are still over 2 weeks away before the NFL season officially starts. Now, the question is, will Jeanty be ready for week 1? That is yet to be seen, but it seems that the Raiders dodged a big bullet here, and Jeanty will be good to go. Maybe not week 1, but a good sign, no doubt, Joe. We have a lot to get to as we've been talking about the AFC West overall, the prices on the Chargers, which we don't really like. This doesn't really change too much of the Raiders' season outlook. I did hear some reports that this does potentially change the timeline on which Fernando Mendoza would be starting. If Jeanty isn't ready to go in week 1 or wait until week 2, I don't see this as much of a material change for the Raiders overall. It is a good sign that he will play at some point this season, though.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that whole division is going to be very interesting, as you mentioned there, Tom. And right off the bat, we also learned Patrick Mahomes is going to be your week 1 starter in the season. I still don't know how that's possible, given the fact that we saw what happened to his leg there in December. But they are saying, all indications are, he's going to be there for the Kansas City Chiefs opening game. But I still think September is going to be interesting. I think there's going to be a lot of highs and lows with the Raiders, whether Jeanty plays or he doesn't. I think they have some other things they have to be able to figure out, namely, you and I talked yesterday, if they can't stop anybody in that young secondary from scoring, it won't make a difference what they have going on offense. But I do think it's going to be a tale of two halves. I think they're going to show moments of they did the right thing with Mendoza. They're on right track. But, Tom, I think there's also going to be those moments where they gave up 42 points. We're going to get the Crosby news again that he wants. It's going to be rinse and repeat. The question is, do we get more of the good stories out of them and the good signs as opposed to the bad Pete Carroll vibes that we got a year ago? I hope it's the other way, because I do think they got some players on his team.
They do, and a lot of it comes down to Kirk Cousins. Can he be average? Can he be capable? Because to your point with their defense, which we know is not going to be good, if they start giving up points into the mid-30s, Kirk Cousins, do we trust him to get more than 30? Do we trust him to get 17, 21, 24? If they are constantly playing from behind and Kirk Cousins constantly has to drop back because the Raiders are in pure passing game scripts and he is not able to move as we saw last year, it could be a very, very slow start to their offense. And then, of course, the fan noise will get very loud, and that's what will push Mendoza to be in at some point. Joe, we got some potential injury news with Jamar Chase with the Bengals. He went down a little bit rough today, but apparently he seems to be good. So another team dodging a bullet there when it comes to a star player.
Yeah, Calvin Austin, too. I believe, had to be carted off today with the Giants. So that was more depth now that they're going to be going, oh, boy, what do we do here? And let's just hope we can get past the next week Tom, with some of these teams and just go into the season healthy. I mean, that is all you can hope for. There was a lot of people taking deep breaths, Bengal fans, earlier today when that news broke about Chase, but it does appear that all is well. He is good to go. And we still have a lot of question marks about guys that were injured a year ago. Patrick Mahomes, how long before he shakes the rust? What about Danny Dimes? How important is he to what Indy does this year? When will we see him? And, oh, yeah, by the way, what's the backup quarterback situation like there in Indy? So there are still some questions, a lot of questions with guys that know who their starting quarterback is, but we're not quite sure what we're going to get, at least not in September, Tom, not with guys like Daniel Jones.
No, and frankly, the Daniel Jones recovery timeline is also a little bit accelerated, or also just a little bit more than what I anticipated. And frankly, I don't want to say the division's up for grabs, but I'm not sold on the Texans' offense. The Jags are exciting, but somewhat unproven. The Colts, you want to lean on Jonathan Taylor in the running game, but the receiving room is dealing with some uncertainty. We know that Alec Pierce got a big contract in the offseason, but he has been riddled with surgeries and injury recovery essentially in the offseason. They had assigned Keenan Allen, and granted, he knows the offensive system with Shane Steichen there, so there's some familiarity there. But having to sign a veteran receiver in the second week of preseason games, that's not an encouraging thing for the offense when it's all said and done. There are reports today that Anthony Richardson will be starting the final preseason game for the Colts, and that the starters outside of Daniel Jones and Jonathan Taylor will be playing. So that's a little bit interesting to see a team play their starters in the last preseason game. I'm very wait and see on the Colts, because until we see Daniel Jones out there actually get hit and get up, I'll wait and sit on the sidelines for that one.
I got to tell you, though, that I read a couple of reports earlier over the weekend, some of the beat writers following the Colts, and they say he looks fantastic. He looks in great shape. He looks really, really good. He hasn't played a full season since 2022, though, Tom. So it makes banking on him being the guy or, longevity is not great. But don't forget, first 10 games last year, they went 8-2 with a healthy Danny Dimes. Call it crazy. We saw flashes of what he could be under, when you actually had a coaching staff and you had guys around him that could actually do something there. Dable did a good job early on, and then, they got all those injuries, and then he didn't have anybody. But we saw what a good running game, a healthy defense. All of a sudden, Danny Dimes just don't lose the game. Turns out he can make some plays when he needs it. So to me, if he's healthy, I would take the win total over. If he's not, Tom, I think then we're back to square one again with the Colts.
It's going to be really interesting to see how things shake out for them in the early season. And I really think we'll get a pretty clear indication of what the Colts are going to be quickly. Because if Danny Dimes takes, if he takes a month and a half to really get his legs under him, literally and figuratively, and then to get running, yes, the division isn't super tough, but it's not about the division. It's really just about the AFC wildcard picture overall, because I think most people would say the Bills and the Pats coming out of the AFC East, the Pats are clearly going to take a step back. They had a very easy schedule last year. We all know this, but the Bills and the Pats pushing towards the playoffs, the Bengals and the Ravens, the Steelers will be around 500, as we talked about yesterday. The Chiefs, the Broncos, the Chargers, granted, we may not be super high on the Chargers, but they'll still be good enough to probably be in the wild card mix. It doesn't leave a really clean path for the Colts. So my point being is, if they start off slow, they just might be 2 steps behind the rest of the way, and that might be it for them.
Exactly. Health. And if he can stay healthy, if they can keep him healthy, I'm still a little questionable on who's getting to the quarterback on the defensive side of the ball for the Colts. That remains to be seen, but they got a lot of the other pieces. Just keep Danny, I can't believe I'm saying it, keep him healthy, and you got a chance there. We got more game time decisions to make. We'll be back here on the grid. It's usually a 2-horse race, Houston or Jacksonville, with Indy on the outside looking in. We're going to find out, I think, rather quickly in the first month because the scheduling is absolutely brutal this year. And do yourself a favor. Now is the time to start prepping. You talk about contests, Craig, right? Survivor is all about planning.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
I do not think that history suggests the best thing for a quarterback is to start week one. Obviously, you need reps, but we have seen guys sit and benefit from it. I think Anthony Richardson might have a completely different, couldn't have been any worse if the Colts didn't play him his rookie season as the rawest quarterback ever drafted. That didn't help.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
His height, how hard he could throw it, didn't matter. How do you communicate it? How do you look at these guys in the face? An old 10-year vet, right guard over there, and a 9-year tackle that's been. How you gonna look that old man in the face and convince him, hey guys, we're gonna get ready to go down the field. We're gonna score here. Because that's what the great ones do. They walk in the huddle and everybody goes, okay, it's time, let's go.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Ohtani, he's going to be the MVP. The PCA argument, I completely understand. If he ends up winning it, I'm not going to be surprised. And I do think it'll be somewhat of the fatigue as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine looking back, Tom, you and I, 10 years and talking about a player in baseball doing what Ohtani's doing and not winning the MVP. I mean, it seems crazy to me.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Tom Vecchio as we're getting you ready here for a loaded slate tonight in Major League Baseball. Some interesting pitching matchups, to say the least, especially out west. Some late-night action. Could it be the last time that we see Paul Skeens make a trip to the mound? Although the Pirates certainly stole one last night at Petco there against the Padres. That's an interesting one coming up. Of course, the Yankees have an interesting series also with the Houston Astros coming up. And Houston continues to just befuddle me here, Tom. I do not know what to make of this team. I thought they would have enough after the All-Star break to kind of run away with the West. That has not happened. The offense has let me down. The bullpen has finally righted the ship. They've gotten healthy. They're firing everybody. What is going on with Houston? And can we trust them in the Bronx, even against Will Warren tonight?
So I'm really confused by Houston as well. They have turmoil on the field, off the field, whatever you want to call it. It's clear the Yankees are a better team. They've been playing great as of late. They're coming off a rest day of yesterday. Everyone's going to be ready to go. Despite the inefficiency with the Houston offense as of late, I'm actually going to look to fade Will Warren tonight. I like him specifically under 15 and a half outs recorded. And, I like looking at pitchers in recent samples compared to the entire season, just so we get an accurate view. Over the last 30 days for Will Warren, his ERA is up at 6.26. His walk rate is higher than it was compared to a season average. His home runs are higher than it was compared to a season average. Across the board, he's basically the worst version of himself. He's been under 15 and a half in 6 out of his last 9 starts. And yes, the Astros are struggling right now, but they're still around league average and slightly better versus right-handed pitchers in the last 30 days. Also, with the Yankees coming off the rest day and getting news a little bit earlier that Max Fried should be back on Saturday to pitch, I don't think that the spot that the Yankees want to be like, oh, hey, Will Warren, just go out there and throw us 7 or 8 innings. They can't afford to lose another pitcher if Fried is expected back, and Weathers, we know, is probably done for the season. So they're on a thin path right now, and that means Will Warren could pitch well, but he's just not going to go super deep into the game.
No, he's not, and that's okay, because bottom line is Yankees got to figure out some way to get some offense going if they're going to get they got to kick this thing into another gear. So I do think this is a pretty good litmus test for both of these teams here tonight. I did also see earlier Bieber was scratched So that means another Max Scherzer start tonight, huh, Tom? What do we love to do when Max Scherzer takes the mound at the Rogers Center against Kansas City? What do we like?
We love the over tonight. I love over 8 tonight. Seth Lugo has been terrible. It's not just about Scherzer. Like, granted, Scherzer has been pretty terrible as well. But Seth Lugo has also not been good in recent outings over the last 30 days. He has a 6.18 ERA. His walks aren't that terrible, but he's not striking anyone out. His BABIP is at 337. I love everything about this matchup. And it also helps that the Royals are seemingly on fire on offense. They're scoring runs left, right, and center, and they should be able to do so against Max Scherzer. So the fact that we get a flat 8, and you always get the potential for a push, I think you could take a Royals team total over, and I really do like the game over 8 tonight.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you here. I think runs are coming. Lugo is kind of leaving far too many pitches over the plate, but both these teams have actually turned it up offensively a little bit here. So I do think this game could be, anytime Scherzer's on the mound. Come on, let's face it, that's going to be fun there. Coming up in just a little over an hour from now, though, the Marlins looking to bounce back against the Red Sox. Totally going for Boston. I believe Phillips, if they don't roll out an opener first, going for the Marlins. Thought the Marlins could steal one last night. I thought Sandy was really good, Tom, but just not enough offense when it mattered most there, and the Marlins fall 4-2. Are they in a bounce-back mode here tonight?
I really don't think so. Peyton Tolley has been downright phenomenal. Like, listen, if you're going to get a start at home from Sandy, that's the one you got to win in the series, then hope to grab one the other two. Tolley has been unbelievable, especially in recent starts. Over the last 30 days, he has 11.27 Ks per 9. His walks are down at only 2.08. He has a 2.37 ERA. When we look to the Marlins over that same sample size of the last 30 days, Marlins are coming in right now with an 86 WRC plus. Yeah, they're not striking out a whole lot. Yeah, they can get runners on base via the walks, but when we look to Miami overall, their ISO is at 0.084. It is absolutely terrible. That is the second lowest in the league over the last 30 days versus lefties. There's no juice in those bats right now.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, too. I mean, it's not a big over ballpark either. We know that. Low Depot. Runs are a lot of times hard to come by. I don't mind the under here. You're right. Tolley has just been lights out. Phillips, if he keeps the ball in the ballpark, got a shot here. But Marlins, who were just feeling good after a couple of nice wins there, right? A sweep off of Washington, I think, over the weekend, coming back down to reality. Very interesting one with the Rays and the Tigers here tonight. I believe it's an opener now, because if I'm not mistaken, Seymour is coming in for the Rays after this. And Job, who's actually looked pretty good since coming off the IL, a long IL stint for that. But he actually hasn't looked that terrible for the Tigers, but another low-scoring game last night. Are they following it up with a low-scoring game here tonight, Tom?
That's a good question. That's one thing I've been kind of, grappling with. 7.5 that, I'm seeing out there for this game seems pretty good. There's a little bit juiced to the over at -122. And I keep the same thing I said last night, or we talked about last night with the Rays, is like, man, that's a pretty reasonable money line price for the Rays, who are one of the best teams in baseball. Yeah, they've been struggling as of late, but that's a pretty fair price for them on the money line. And I keep saying the same thing tonight. Like, man, -126 against a pitcher that's been good, but he's largely unproven this year, and the Rays kind of need a get-right spot after, a tough stretch of games. Like, -126, I sign me up for that.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think the price is right here, and I think we can both admit here, right? Tampa's offense is not what it was back in July. They have slowed it down a little bit, which is typical for this time of year. I think two pretty good pitching staffs going to go at it here tonight. I tend to lean that way in this one, although I do give the edge to Tampa for another win. We got much more to get to. More NFL news and notes coming your way as Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid. It's usually a two-horse race. Houston or Jacksonville, with Indy on the outside looking in. We're going to find out, I think, rather quickly in the first month because the scheduling is absolutely brutal this year. And do yourself a favor. Now is the time to start prepping. You talk about contests, Craig, right? Survivor is all about planning.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
I do not think that history suggests the best thing for a quarterback is to start week one. Obviously, you need reps, but we have seen guys sit and benefit from it. I think Anthony Richardson might have a completely different, couldn't have been any worse if the Colts didn't play him his rookie season as the rawest quarterback ever drafted. That didn't help.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
His height, how hard he could throw it, didn't matter. How do you communicate it? How do you look at these guys in the face? An old 10-year vet, right guard over there, and a 9-year tackle that's been. How you gonna look that old man in the face and convince him, hey guys, we're gonna get ready to go down the field. We're gonna score here. Because that's what the great ones do. They walk in the huddle and everybody goes, okay, it's time, let's go.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Ohtani, he's going to be the MVP. The PCA argument, I completely understand. If he ends up winning it, I'm not going to be surprised. I do think it'll be somewhat of the fatigue as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine looking back, Tom, you and I, 10 years and talking about a player in baseball doing what Ohtani's doing and not winning the MVP. I mean, it seems crazy to me.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game time decisions here on the SportsGrid Network as we will get you ready, of course, for a loaded slate tonight in Major League Baseball. Get ready to start in just a little over an hour from now. We've got a lot of NFL news and notes also that we've learned here today as we get ready for that final preseason game. Hard to believe that there used to be 4 of these games, Tom. I don't know if you remember that, where, usually weeks 2 and 3, we were almost guaranteed to see starters for at least a half or so. But I can assure you in week 3, we will not be seeing a lot of starters in any way, shape, or form hitting the field. So it's backup position time. And that's really what a lot of this is going to determine over the next week is which teams are going to stack their depth chart with guys that are going to actually play. Because we know I think over 1,100 guys are about to get cut here, Tom, over the next week or so, right? So that means a lot of practice squad, a lot of guys that will have opportunities to win. Injuries force teams to get involved. But there are a lot of teams where does it really matter who they choose here, Tom? And I've been going back and forth with some of the bottom teams, I think, in the NFL this year. And I'm in the South Florida area, and I can tell you I can't find one beat reporter that is excited about the Dolphins season. I mean, not one. They think the Dolphins are going to be epically bad on a whole lot of levels. And can I tell you something? I think a lot of it's going to have to do with the defensive side. I think they're going to get lit up a lot. I love H.N. I don't know if you think he's a guy worthy. If you haven't built out your fantasy teams yet or haven't gone through the drafts, I think H.N. is tier 1 as far as a running back goes. But how many times are we using him really here if you're down 3 touchdowns all the time?
It's a great question. And when it comes to looking at markets for the Dolphins, the one that comes to mind for everybody is who's going to have the worst record in the NFL. It's not, will the Dolphins make the playoffs? It's like, no, it's not a division thing. It's will they have the worst record in the NFL? They have a 4.5 win total. It's tied for the lowest in the NFL, along with the Arizona Cardinals. And, frankly, the Dolphins, we just got to call it what it is. They're not even coming into the season with the full deck just because they have so much dead cap space that they have to deal with.
Yep.
Now, the Cardinals, systemically, I think, have immense risk just because they're so bad. The Dolphins, like I almost see them like they're going to try to be good. I don't think the Cardinals are even trying to be good with how much they have going on. The Dolphins, though, they just don't have the depth that other teams do because they can't even sign backups for like, hey, we'll give you $3 million to play. We'll give you $4 million for backups. Like, they have to sign these backups for the minimum just because they're not dealing with the full salary cap. So what the Dolphins give from us this season, I think, is going to be very, very low in terms of our expectations. To your point, they should be. But for Achane, this is a player that has been absolutely fantastic over the last few years, but they're going to be playing from behind every game. How can we afford to look to get him the ball 20 times if they have to be in a passing game script?
Listen, I think Malik Willis is I thought he made great strides there. He's come a long way since he was, drafted by Tennessee, where nobody wanted him. Yeah. And then, of course, it's amazing how much coaching matters when you get to this point, right? And he gets with LaFleur in there, and that game against Baltimore still what blows me away how good he was against that Ravens team when he came in. He was so good, Tom, that it actually gave him a 3-year and a multi-million-dollar contract to be a franchise quarterback with the Miami Dolphins. Now, having said that, he's going to probably light up the stat sheet. Why? Because, like you just said, what else are they going to do besides trail most of these games and have to throw the ball? But it's interesting because as bad as the Dolphins, I think, are going to be, and I still want to try to figure out a way with Devin Achane each week to figure out ways to back him. What do you do with Trey McBride, who is, let's face it, one of the best tight ends? Kyler Murray couldn't figure out how to get him in the end zone, couldn't figure out how to utilize him in the red zone his entire time there. Jacoby Brissett did. At the very least, could Trey McBride be the guy we're focusing on each week with Arizona?
I want to say yes, but just based on natural regression, the Cardinals are in a spot to see Trey McBride have I'm not going to say a significantly worse year, but because the Cardinals dropped back in so many passing game scripts so much last year, they're actually due for some just natural regression that they can't drop back 600 times year after year. If that comes down by 15% or 10%, Trey McBride's not going to have a whole lot of upside because he's just not going to have the ball as much. And I think the Cardinals want to keep it away from passing game scripts. That's what Nathaniel Hackett wants to do, their OC.
126 receptions last year, the most by a tight end in any single season. Trey McBride a year ago. More Game Time Decisions continues here on the All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Tom Vecchio as, football is in the air. Week 0 of the college football season, just 5 days away. Saturday, 16 teams, 8 games. They will take the field, and that means we'll have meaningful football, Tom, on a Saturday from this point moving forward for quite a while. And then the NFL going to finish up week 3 of the preseason, and we're still trying to figure out rosters and spots and the more injury news that comes down. And we were just talking about some of the teams that we don't envision winning a lot of games this year. Miami certainly is one of those teams. Arizona, we also learned earlier today, Jeremiah Love, their number 1 pick, right? A guy that everyone thought was going to have a franchise game changer. Well, looks like he's got a high ankle sprain. He's not going to be available. They're not counting on it at the start of the season. And now all of a sudden the running backs, James Conner still trying to get back from an ankle injury. Trey Benson, you said, was just put on the IL, and just like that, no Jeremiah Love, no franchise running back. I guess maybe Jacoby Brissett and Trey McBride is the only thing they're going to have there.
It might be, and they're trying to get Marv Harrison to bounce back after a slow year. Michael Wilson was a breakout last year. Yeah. What we do know is the Cardinals going to be trailing a lot of games. Like, that's as clear as day. Their offensive line isn't good, and it really just comes down to what we saw from Brissett last year. And if people are deep into the NFL prop streets on a week in and week out basis, one of my favorite NFL props, or my favorite NFL prop, would be quarterback pass attempts, because those are highly projectable. Game flow and game script and win totals all go into giving pretty accurate projections for pass attempts for a quarterback. And Brissett is constantly in the, not just the upper 30s, the low 40s to high 40s, because they have to pass the ball so much. And if that's going to be the case, they can't run the ball and they're going to be playing from behind by 20. Jacoby Brissett pass attempts is going to be an interesting market to follow every week.
I was going back and forth, Tom, trying to figure out, because the Browns are another one of those just terrible teams, and, it shouldn't shock anybody when you send away a Hall of Famer named Myles Garrett to out west. But I will say this, looking over the roster and some of what they have, like the front 7 of the Browns is going to, even without Myles Garrett, is going to be much better than people realize. They got first rounder Mason Graham, Malik Collins there, Jared Verse, don't forget, came in that trade. Alex Wright went down. I think he blew his Achilles out, but Derek Barnett. I mean, you go down, they got linebackers galore. Secondary's not great, but that front 7 is really good. The problem is that quarterback, is it there a worse quarterback room in the NFL, Tom, than what the Browns have here in that room? It's close with the Jets, but I think the Browns get it done here.
They probably do, and it's going to have to come down to that defense, like you said, with their front 7. Carson Schwarzenegger is also in the mix there. It's going to come down to, can they insulate Deshaun Watson from making mistakes? Can they put him in spots to dink and dunk, pick up easy first downs? They got some, rookie wide receivers that they want to utilize. Harold Fannin, the second-year tight end, was really a bit of a breakout. Quinshon Judkins in the backfield. Can they do just enough to not expose Watson to need to throw the ball downfield, to need to take 7-step drops and have the ball in his hands for 3-4 seconds? Can they make it easy on them? Because, frankly, if the defense is good enough, they could cover more games. I'm not going to say that they're going to win a ton of games, but if they could be in just 1 or 2 more games, they may be a sneaky team you could look to back here or there. Because, frankly, Joe, I think the public perception of the Browns and Watson is so low that you could get inflated numbers. You're getting 9.5s out there, a 10. You're like, hey, okay, I'll take a shot on a double-digit game in the NFL. I'll take them to cover a game. They're not going to win, but they can keep it somewhat close.
Tom, I'm with you. I mean, I saw that 5.5 win total, and I really wanted to pull the trigger on the under, but I keep looking at that defensive side of the ball and going, you know, they can get a couple of takeaways. And if Monken is as good a OC-minded guy, we have seen, you know, we just saw Sam Darnold win a Super Bowl, folks. So it's not out of the question that the right coach and a little bit of talent and just don't lose them a game. I did see, too, this is the only team since 1970 to lose all 5 of their starting offensive linemen in the same season from a year ago. They don't have anybody on the roster that was actually supposed to start last year. So this is much like college football, I guess, where they have 5 brand new offensive linemen here looking to protect them. And to tell you the truth, given the injuries and the way what we saw last, that might not be a bad thing. But I'm with you, man. I don't know that I'd run to the window right away and bet under 5.5 because I think that defense is probably going to keep them in more games than they should be in.
You know, that's a good point with the offensive line. You know, in college, everyone likes to refer to returning production year over year. What is the returning production from, you know, 1 year to the next? We don't really talk about that in the NFL because most players are generally signed to contracts that it's like, oh, we have 4 of the 5 guys returning. Like, we don't have to really think about this. You know, 8 of the 11 starters on defense return. But it's a good point to, you know, note that offensive line changes can be a huge thing. Todd Monken is a great offensive mind. But really, the 5.5 win total is so tough because 6 wins is objectively not a good season. Like, they do go over their win total. But them having 6 wins, if we see that at the end of December, beginning of January, no one's going to be like, oh, wow, what a season by the Browns. Like, no, they have 6 wins and double-digit losses. They'll be a top 10 pick. And by all accounts, it's a bad year for them. But it does set up for a really interesting, I don't want to say race to the bottom, because between the Browns, the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Cardinals, we're looking at 4 teams that potentially need franchise quarterbacks. And the race to the number 1 pick with how good next year's quarterback class is supposed to be is going to be very interesting come the end of December and the beginning of January.
I agree. I think there are without a doubt going to be some of these teams, and I don't think the Dolphins or Arizona are going to be one of them that are going to surprise us here a little bit. But, you know, I think the Browns could surprise a couple of us here, and I think you're right, Tom. Go down the schedule. There will be some – they'll never, if ever, rarely going to be a favorite, certainly not in the conference there. But am I crazy to think that maybe the Browns could finish ahead of, dare I say, the Steelers or the Bengals if they don't keep Joe Burrow healthy? Is it possible?
That's an interesting – I mean, that's really interesting to see what the potential floor for the other teams in the division are and the ceiling for the Browns would be. It would have to really just come down to how you view their schedule, you know, from in the totality of the season. Can
and
they
you
get
know
to
it's going to be
wins?
easy. You know, I mean, they're at 5.5 wins. They're not 3.5, right? They're not. They're a 5.5 win team in the market right now. And if you take away the court, Aaron Rodgers goes down, Burrow goes down. You're going to tell me the backups and the offenses of those teams are what, million miles ahead of what the Browns got going on?
No. So just looking at their schedule real quick, the question is, do they win? You know, either of the games versus the Bengals, the Steelers, and the Ravens. Outside of that, they play the Jets, the Titans, the Saints, the Raiders, the Falcons, the Giants, and the Colts.
That's crazy.
And depending on how things go, it's like they could pick up a win against the Jets. I don't think that would shock people. They could pick up a win against the Raiders, the Giants. Like, you know, especially late season, if Dart doesn't stay healthy, if for the Colts, if Danny Dimes doesn't stay healthy, like that could be the Raiders, the Giants, the Colts, the Jets, maybe the Titans. Like, that's 4 wins right there, 5 wins right there. They split versus the Bengals or split versus the Steelers. All of a sudden, you're working with a 6-win team.
Thank you. And that's exactly how I was going through it in my head. And I'm going, I think the value is on the over here. I think I can get 6 or more wins out of this team if a couple of bounces go their way. And a lot of it centers around that defense there. I think that defense is much better. You hear that, well, you got rid of a Hall of Famer. Well, they got a lot in return here as well. We'll have more game time decisions here coming up on the grid. It's usually a 2-horse race. Houston or Jacksonville with Indy on the outside looking in. We're going to find out, I think, rather quickly in the first month because the scheduling is absolutely brutal this year. And do yourself a favor. Now is the time to start prepping. You talk about contests, Craig, right? Survivor is all about planning.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
I do not think that history suggests the best thing for a quarterback is to start week one. Obviously, you need reps, but we have seen guys sit and benefit from it. I think Anthony Richardson might have a completely different, couldn't have been any worse if the Colts didn't play him his rookie season as the rawest quarterback ever drafted. That didn't help.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
His height, how hard he could throw it, didn't matter. How do you communicate it? How do you look at these guys in the face? An old 10-year vet, right guard over there, and a 9-year tackle that's been. How you gonna look that old man in the face and convince him, hey guys, we're gonna get ready to go down the field. We're gonna score here. Because that's what the great ones do. They walk in the huddle and everybody goes, okay, it's time, let's go.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Ohtani, he's going to be the MVP. The PCA argument, I completely understand. If he ends up winning it, I'm not going to be surprised. And I do think it'll be somewhat of the fatigue as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine looking back, Tom, you and I, 10 years and talking about a player in baseball doing what Ohtani's doing and not winning the MVP. I mean, it seems crazy to me.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Tom Vecchio. It is good that football is back in our lives here. And Tom was just perusing social media there, and I had made a comment earlier that being in South Florida, I follow these local beat reporters that cover the Dolphins. And Tom, it has not been a lot to be excited about over the years here in Miami for the Dolphins, but I have never seen a group of beat writers so down on one NFL team like what you see with the Dolphins. You just read Kelly, too, as a guy that's been following forever. And I love the honesty because they're not being shills for the team and pumping them up. Like, they're telling you this team is an absolute unmitigated disaster, Tom. He said it again here today.
He did, and I just keep looking at their roster, and like the thing that comes to mind for me is with A-Chain, like everyone agrees that he's awesome, but let's just say a defense, hypothetically, were able to scheme and game plan to, minimize A-Chain's impact, and they take him out of the game effectively. Like we see it in other sports, basketball. It's like, okay, if they can eliminate him from the offense, where does the production come from on Miami? Malik Willis throwing to Malik Washington, or Jalen Tolbert, or Greg Dulcich, like these guys don't inspire any amount of offensive confidence. Combined with the defense being so bad, we're looking at games that they're going to lose 30-10, and that terrible. Is can we get a market on which team will have the highest point differential? Because I think the Dolphins could be up there for that.
I agree. I think it's going to be epically bad, which again is what worries me, because the Jets, they've got the assets to, even if they win one or two more games than they should, Tom, the Jets still have the assets to maybe move up and get whoever they want. But I keep looking at that Miami and going, I'm just like, hey, I think Buffalo wins the AFC East. I think the Patriots are second, and then I'm hoping Miami and then the Jets, but the more I look at this roster, I'm going, wow, this is just they might not win more than 2 games here. I don't think are they beating New England? Are they beating Buffalo one game, Tom? Miami? No. I can't see.
Who do they play week 18?
Yeah, that's who I want to know. Jets.
They play Pats TBD. They finish season Packers, Chargers, Bills, Pats. At Pats. So theoretically, there's a chance that the Pats have things locked up and they're just in rest mode, which is a very normal thing for teams to do. We know that.
Good
so
point.
that could be a win. and it could be Quinn Ewers going out there to sling the ball in week
How
18
crazy is
just
that?
to
Yep.
and then they just pick up a win because they get the win and the Pats don't need the game, and that sends them over their win total or something, where it gets them out of a draft spot, which is a nightmare scenario for bettors and fans alike sometimes.
It's bonkers to me. Like you keep adding games, NFL. We'll keep getting guys that are Tank Fest USA here. Unbelievable there. Also, plenty coming up here tonight. Major League Baseball, less than an hour away. We've got 3 games, in fact. The Tigers trying to end a 6-game losing streak, taking on the Rays. You got the Marlins looking to bounce back against Boston. And the Nats again taking on the Rockies. And, boy, we got some runs last night in that matchup here. The Nats sending the lefty rookie Alvarez to the mound. As long as he doesn't walk 19 guys, I think they're going to be good to go. You mentioned last night that the Rockies offense without Goodman is not worth looking at. I don't know that they're going to be worth looking at here tonight. So the Nats are going to have to do some of the heavy lifting if we're looking at it over here, no?
We are, but Goodman is actually activated off of the IL, and he's in the lineup today, which was a little bit of a surprise to me. So he's back in. It's at an 8.5, as you said. He's going to be in there batting third. Abrams is back, and frankly, I don't know how you could want to sweat out an under between these two teams, knowing how bad the bullpens are. And to your point, Alvarez hasn't been terrible. A 2.36 ERA over the last 30 days. Granted, he doesn't have a large sample size, because he's recently called up, but the walks continue to be an issue for him. I would look to the over, especially with Goodman back. An 8.5 is not that bad, and you're not getting a 9 out there, so I'm with it.
I kind of went. Mason Adams, by the way, expected to make his major league debut tonight for Colorado. This is the 20th ranked player in Major League Baseball in the minor leagues. So yeah, he's a big boy here. He's been really good. So AAA, he's 25 or 26 years old. So he'll make his start, and he's not in Colorado, which is great. He's in Washington. So yeah, maybe why not? Maybe because once they get to that bullpen, we know exactly what's going to happen there. So maybe looking forward to getting some runs here tonight in this one. I'm just curious. We talked about the Phillies last night, and we didn't understand the number. And while I guess we understand the number now, Wheeler is just not having a good time of it right now. But Cal Raleigh hitting 3 home runs last night, Tom? Like I am willing to go right back to the well and fade him tonight. Just him in every way, shape, or form. Because if you think he figured something out, he has not figured anything out. He's going to go back to striking out 3 times in this game tonight.
Yeah, when I saw the results from last night's game and seeing that the Phillies lost and Cal Raleigh has all these home runs, and they're saying, they ran out of fireworks in Seattle because they hit too many home runs against the Phillies. I was like, you know what? Maybe, looking back on obviously hindsight, the Phillies had a magical comeback win on Sunday, then they fly cross country, and then they run into a Mariners team that's desperate. It's like, I just want to hit the Phillies again today. I just want to hit their money line again at only minus 102. I'm not going to buy into the Mariners turning things around. George Kirby has not been good. That is an unbelievable game from Cal Raleigh, yes, but the offense is still struggling overall. The Phillies have been on fire in offense. Fire it right back at minus 102 on the Phillies money line. I'm not trusting the Mariners.
I could not agree more. I think that, enjoy yourself, Mariners, but come back down to reality here. I think the Phillies bounce back here in a big, big way. And don't forget, the Mariners were coming off a game in which they gave up, 18, 19 runs to the Cubs. So we know what they're fully capable of here. I don't think they found anything, but much more baseball to go, including a little bit of a sign-stealing controversy last night in Arizona, which I think is hilarious given the fact that how old is sign-stealing in Major League Baseball is as old as the game. Figure it out, Merrill Kelly and Arizona Diamondbacks. We got more coming up, though, as Game Time Decisions continues on the Grid. It's It's usually a two-horse race. Houston or Jacksonville, with Indy on the outside looking in. We're going to find out, I think, rather quickly in the first month, because the scheduling is absolutely brutal this year. And do yourself a favor. Now is the time to start prepping. You talk about contests, Craig, right? Survivor is all about planning.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
I do not think that history suggests the best thing for a quarterback is to start week one. Obviously, you need reps, but we have seen guys sit and benefit from it. I think Anthony Richardson might have a completely different, couldn't have been any worse if the Colts didn't play him his rookie season as the rawest quarterback ever drafted. That didn't help.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
His height, how hard he could throw it, didn't matter. How do you communicate it? How do you look at these guys in the face? An old 10-year vet right guard over there and a 9-year tackle that's been. How you gonna look that old man in the face and convince him, hey guys, we're gonna get ready to go down the field. We're gonna score here. Because that's what the great ones do. They walk in the huddle and everybody goes, okay, it's time, let's go.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Ohtani, he's going to be the MVP. The PCA argument, I completely understand. If he ends up winning it, I'm not going to be surprised. And I do think it'll be somewhat of the fatigue as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine looking back, Tom, you and I, 10 years and talking about a player in baseball doing what Ohtani's doing and not winning the MVP. I mean, it seems crazy to me.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in as we look to close out this first hour together here on Game Time Decisions on the SportsGrid Network. He is Tom Vecchio. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by. We're getting you ready. 3 games coming up next hour for you, and we are going to have a whole lot, full slate, all 15, I believe, today in action. So a lot to go over. We will certainly do that. We were just talking about last night's Cubs and Diamondbacks game where Merrill Kelly was not having it last night. Well, Merrill Kelly's been getting lit up like a Christmas tree. I mean, and the Diamondbacks, you got to score runs to win games. I don't know that blaming a third base coach for stealing signs and relaying it to his hitters is necessarily the most important thing here, but they were clearly not happy with the third base coach, Quentin Berry, who, according to Merrill Kelly and the Arizona Diamondbacks, he was basically stealing the signs and giving them and relaying those signs to the hitters in the box. Now, if that's the case, then change the signs, Tom. Like, what are we doing here that we're any edge that you can get? I mean, nobody's banging on garbage cans here. Let's establish that right off the bat. But if you can't be crafty enough or figure out a way to avoid the third base coach from seeing what it is the catcher is throwing down, then you deserve to lose and you deserve to get hit. I don't know what you're crying about. I really don't.
I don't either. And this is really just a part of the game where it's move and counter move and counter move. How are you going to react to things? And the Diamondbacks saying, look, stealing signs, okay, it is what it is, but it has to be the guy on second base doing it, relaying it to the hitter. It can't be the third base coach. It can't be this. Well, ultimately, if you are doing something that allows the team to have an advantage, tipping pitches, showing the signs, whatever it might be, that should be on you to adjust what you're doing and not to say, oh, don't steal the sign that I happen to be putting out there just because you happen to not be standing in a spot or you are in a spot. It just seems a little bit too focus on being better, and then you won't have to deal with any of this. Yeah,
exactly. And, don't forget, I think coaches have been told, I thought this year, to remain within that bracket in the coaches box, remember? Because they were roaming all over the place. Yeah. I get that. But it wasn't like he was up the left, like he was in the box where he was supposed to be. And if you are especially the left-handed hitters, if you can't cover or hide that you're throwing an off-speed pitch to a left, again, that's on you. So the whole thing, and that's usually what happens when you get beat 7-0, looking for any reason at all at a finger to point. Sign stealing is as old as the game. Figure it out. Now, having said that, Brandon Pfaadt is on the mound here tonight for the Diamondbacks, and he is a guy I would absolutely look to back, especially that the Arizona Diamondbacks were shut out last night, 7-0. And you've got Clay Holmes, newly acquired Clay Holmes, going for the Cubs here tonight. But Brandon Pfaadt has been out of this world since being called up from that little AAA split. Worked on the mechanics, worked on some mixing up the pitches, and the results, I think, speak for themselves here. I think Arizona is worth a look here tonight at home in a bounce-back spot.
I really agree with that, and you're getting a really good price on them for just straight up money line. You're getting at minus what is this for them? Plus 100, minus 105, depending on where you do your shopping thereabouts. But he has been great over the last 30 days. Thought this is 33.1 innings pitched. He only has 6.48 Ks per nine, which is a little bit low, but he induces a lot of medium contact. He's getting those ground balls. His ERA is at 1.35. And, he's doing his job and bringing a whole lot of stability to the Diamondbacks rotation, which they desperately need. And yes, the Cubs bats have been absolutely on fire over the last 30 days versus righties. They're coming in with a 260 average. They're essentially a top 10 offense versus righties over the last 30 days, the Cubs this is. But I will take Pfaadt at a plus money price essentially at home in a bounce back spot. Because not only the Diamondbacks haven't been good, they're in the thick of the NL wildcard race. I will take them at near even money in a coin flip game.
Interesting that they had a deal in place with the Mets to acquire Clay Holmes at the trade deadline. That was 86th last minute, right? Because I guess there was some concern about the minor leaguer that the Diamondbacks were going to use in that trade, and it was basically they backed out at the last second. Instead, he ends up on his way to Chicago, but he would have been good for Arizona as well. But I think Brandon Pfaadt has just been he's been really, really good. And I think the Cubs bats, as hot as they have been, good pitching beats good hitting, I think, any day of the week. And at that price, at home, in a bounce-back spot, yep, I'll do it. Not to mention Clay Holmes, what's he going to go? 4 innings? We don't know if he's even close to being stretched out enough here to count on him for 6 or more. So we got another hour together, though, as Game Time Decisions continues on the grid. It's usually a 2-horse race, Houston or Jacksonville, with Indy on the outside looking in. We're going to find out, I think, rather quickly in the first month, because the scheduling is absolutely brutal this year. And do yourself a favor. Now is the time to start prepping. You talk about contests, Craig, right? Survivor is all about planning.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
I do not think that history suggests the best thing for a quarterback is to start week 1. Obviously, you need reps, but we have seen guys sit and benefit from it. I think Anthony Richardson might have a completely different, couldn't have been any worse if the Colts didn't play him his rookie season as the rawest quarterback ever drafted. That didn't help.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
His height, how hard he could throw it, didn't matter. How do you communicate it? How do you look at these guys in the face? An old 10-year vet, right guard over there, and a 9-year tackle that's been. How you gonna look that old man in the face and convince him, hey guys, we're gonna get ready to go down the field. We're gonna score here. Because that's what the great ones do. They walk in the huddle and everybody goes, okay, it's time, let's go.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Ohtani, he's going to be the MVP. The PCA argument, I completely understand. If he ends up winning it, I'm not going to be surprised. I do think it'll be somewhat of the fatigue as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine looking back, Tom, you and I, 10 years and talking about a player in baseball doing what Ohtani's doing and not winning the MVP. I mean, it seems crazy to me.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back. Game Time Decisions here on this Tuesday on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Tom Vecchio as we've got baseball coming up this hour, a whole lot next hour as well, as 15 Major League Baseball games going to be on tap. And we'll get it started here in just about 40 minutes in Miami with the Marlins getting ready to take on the Boston Red Sox. In the meantime, lot going on in the NFL here as teams are looking to figure out, hey, where's the depth? Who's the practice squad players? What are our injuries look like heading into the season? We had a huge scare earlier today for Cincinnati Bengals fan as Jamar Chase went down. They are saying, I believe, Tom, was it hyperextension? But no serious injury. But anytime you see that, man, if it ain't one thing, it's another with the Bengals, right? They can't get the contracts right. They can't keep Joe Burrow healthy. And now you think Jamar Chase might have gone down. But I think that's the last we will see of Jamar Chase, I think, in the preseason, Tom. I think that's fair to say, no?
Right. It has to be. The practice facilities that the Bengals have has been a discussion for many years at this point. But apparently he is good to go. It was just an injury scare. He said it was a slight hyperextension, but he's fine. And I saw clips of him after the injury. Like the trainers checked him out. He went back onto the field and he did radio after practice was over, standing up. So he seems to be totally fine, which is great. We want to see these guys fully healthy and moving into the season. Other injuries are continuing to pile up across the league, and it really does make an impact on all the betting lines that you have. People have had futures, Joe, of course, not just locked in recently. They've had futures locked in for months, whether you're betting on division, conference, win total. These lines are moving, but I love the fact that we get a small sample in preseason, and it changes expectations or changes our perception of the teams, and then gives us a chance to reinvest or continue to fade the teams once we get the season underway. That's where I love having the dynamic, a hand in one with one thing and then looking to fade them in a different direction on the other once the season gets going.
The Giants also had some bad news here today as they were hoping to have some depth at that wide receiver position. Calvin Austin III ends up getting carted off the New York Giants practice, and they're saying significant right knee injury while running a route during one of the one-on-one drills there. 1 year, $1.5 million. He was obviously going to be somebody that was playing his way onto the team. That was he spent 4 years in Pittsburgh prior to this before joining the Giants. And one of these slot guys that you can absolutely count on. He's been around for a while. So my question is now, does Odell Beckham Jr. move up the slot here? Is Odell Beckham Jr. making this team, Tom Vecchio?
I think he has to at this point because there were a lot of reports suggesting that OBJ was a cut candidate because they just weren't going to keep him around. And I thought that was a pretty fair evaluation. Like, okay, you bring him in, it's this nice reunion. He obviously hasn't been, effective over the last few years, hasn't played a whole lot over the last few years, but now just based on the depth of the position overall, I think they have to keep him around. And, the reports that Neighbors is expected to play in week 1, but he's obviously not 100%. And frankly, he take some time, like getting his legs under him and actually getting into game shape because there's a 0% chance that Malik Neighbors plays in the third preseason game. They're just going to need the wide receiver depth overall.
They are. And I mean, I still don't know is Neighbors going to be ready? Malachi Fields, is he going to be what's going on with him? Is Darius Slayton still on the team too? I mean, they've got often injured wide receivers there. I know Braxton Berrios they brought in. Darnell Mooney is another guy. And all the charts that I saw had Austin making it here. So it would be the story of all stories to see Beckham actually make the team. That would be something else because there'd be a lot of Giant fans, Tom, looking to get out there in week 1 wearing the old Odell Beckham jersey instead of burning it when they should have when they had the chance. They'll actually get to wear it during a season game here. But we also finally, not great news too. I thought this was terrible when it happened. The Seahawks Bud Clark out for the season, the safety there too. Not a good spot. He was supposed to help with some of that with the secondary there for Seattle, who had to go through some changes after winning the championship a year ago. It's been confirmed he is going to be out now for the year. Seattle's defense takes a little bit of a hit there. But if you're a Kansas City Chief fan, you got to be ecstatic, Tom, because guess who will likely be under center in game one, who was game one against, by the way, for Kansas City this year?
Denver on Monday night, right?
It is Denver Monday night, right? Is it Denver Monday night?
Denver Monday night, which is two quarterbacks coming off injuries and two teams that should be pushing to the postseason. And listen, someone's going to start off 0-1.
That's correct. And that is where? At Kansas City or in Denver, you said?
I'm almost positive it's in Kansas City. I can double check real quick for what we have for week one. Yeah, it's in Kansas City. It's a 2.5 line.
In Kansas City.
43.5 total.
He is going to be under center for a Sunday. You know it, Tom. I know it. I just remember when he went down. I mean, that was December. The fact that he is going to be ready with that injury is kind of amazing to me, Tom. But listen, better living through medical science, I guess, because it certainly looks like he is going to be ready to start from game one. And that's good news because I think they finally have a running game. Tom, are you going to buy that Kansas City will finally be able to run the ball with some consistency here next year?
I certainly do. And the potential for Kenneth Walker, I think, is huge because what defenses have done historically to stop Patrick Mahomes with the safety help that they need over the top presents a big opening for Kenneth Walker because if they are in a spot where they're not stacking the box against Kenneth Walker, he's going to run rampant. And seeing his season rushing TD prop at 7.5, I feel like Ken Walker could have 10 if things go well for them on offense.
I don't you? It feels like maybe slow and no more. Let's drop him back 25 times in the first half. Maybe start grinding out some clock, pushing the ball along. I mean, Andy Reid, he's been doing this a long time. I'm just wondering, are they going to be the big? Because he has not been a good downfield passer for a while, but I still think they're a top 7, Tom, top 6 or 7 offense in the National Football League, but they have to be able to run the ball if they're going to have any success here.
They really do, and I think that will alleviate a lot of the passing game issues. And a part of me wants to think that Mahomes could be really effective this upcoming season. And everyone's going to talk about the lack of wide receivers and Travis Kelce declining, and he looks slow and he looks all the things. But if you're as reliant on the passing game, maybe Travis Kelce can play fewer snaps per game. He can run fewer routes per game. But on the routes that he's out there, he's a little bit more effective. And Rashee Rice is out there. And they still have Worthy out there. So these players can just be a little bit more effective on a per-play basis because the running game is actually solid and they can lean back on that.
Yeah, I think they got a pretty good offensive line again. And don't forget, Nagy's out, right? So it's Bieniemy they brought back, who has a lot of experience, not only with Andy Reid, but certainly has a ring there with Patrick Mahomes. So I'm going to be very fascinated with them. What's the one offense, Tom, that's taken a step back this year? It's a conversation we have to have because we know who the contenders are, right? Buffalo, the Rams, 49ers, Cowboys even, Kansas City, Bears. There's got to be one of those teams that is going to take a step back. I mean, the Cowboys bring back everybody this year, right? Including all their wide receivers. But are we buying the Cowboys offense to be top 5 again this season? It's a question we're going to have to ask.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Yeah, we'll do it when we get back because I'm not buying the Cowboys. Game Time Decisions continues on the grid. It's usually a 2-horse race. Houston or Jacksonville with Indy on the outside looking in. We're going to find out, I think, rather quickly in the first month because the scheduling is absolutely brutal this year. And do yourself a favor. Now is the time to start prepping. You talk about contests, Craig, right? Survivor is all about planning.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
I do not think that history suggests the best thing for a quarterback is to start week one. Obviously, you need reps, but we have seen guys sit and benefit from it. I think Anthony Richardson might have a completely different, couldn't have been any worse if the Colts didn't play him his rookie season as the rawest quarterback ever drafted. That didn't help.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
His height, how hard he could throw it, didn't matter. How do you communicate it? How do you look at these guys in the face? An old 10-year vet, right guard over there, and a 9-year tackle that's been. How you gonna look that old man in the face and convince him, hey guys, we're gonna get ready to go down the field. We're gonna score here. Because that's what the great ones do. They walk in the huddle and everybody goes, okay, it's time, let's go.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Ohtani, he's going to be the MVP. The PCA argument, I completely understand. If he ends up winning it, I'm not going to be surprised. And I do think it'll be somewhat of the fatigue as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine looking back, Tom, you and I 10 years and talking about a player in baseball doing what Ohtani's doing and not winning the MVP. I mean, it seems crazy to me.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game time decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Tom Vecchio. We've got Major League Baseball tonight. Actually, 15 games on tap, about 25 minutes away from the first pitch in Miami. That'll kick it off as the Marlins and the Red Sox game 2 of their series. But we're excited because the final week of the preseason of the NFL taking center stage here this week, and we're starting to round into shape. Some of the teams, I don't think we're going to see any more starters play this week. This is all about finding depth and backups now in week 3 of the preseason, which means it gives us an opportunity to take a look at some of these teams and figure out what is the ceiling, what can be the expectation. And when it comes to offense, we talked about the return of Patrick Mahomes and, of course, a new emphasis maybe on the rushing game. I think Kenneth Walker is going to change that offense for the better. They're still going to be able to, I think, throw the ball like they always have under Andy Reid. Mm-hmm. The team that fascinates me is the Dallas Cowboys, because this is a team that's pretty much in the skill position on offense. They're bringing everyone back. I mean, Dak Prescott and Pickens and Williams and CeeDee Lamb. They've got tight ends. There is no reason why Dallas cannot be another top 4, top 5 offense in the National Football League. The defense is going to decide what happens, but I don't know. Are you buying the Dallas Cowboys, especially offensively this year?
I want to buy them offensively. I do. I really think that their overall offensive rank, their quarterback situation, receiver situation, as you said, tight end, running back, like they have so much returning production, to use that phrase again, that it's crazy to think that Dak won't throw for 4,000 plus yards again, and that they can't score 28 plus points every single game. It comes down to their defense, which looks as of now to be very middling, very, very middling. And, you know, maybe Cowboys fans can look at that as a compliment because they've been so terrible in some of the recent years that if they're just average, they win 50% more of games that were coin flip games of the past few years. Maybe they just win half of those games and all of a sudden they're in a playoff spot. And, you know, can they get a little bit of turnover luck in their favor? Because variance can be a good thing and a bad thing. It's not only a bad thing. If they get a little bit of turnover luck and they get a little bit of variance on their side, then maybe their defense, that's 15th or 16th in the league, can be a top 12 defense, and it doesn't have to be amazing, and that can push them just a little bit further. Because I'm not sold on the Eagles, I'm not sold on Washington when it comes to the NFC East, and there's a potential that the Cowboys could push themselves to a division win.
Does Dallas have the best 1-2 wide receiving group in the NFL? Who would you put up against Pickens and CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott?
The only I would put Puka and Devontae and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Like, to me, those are the top three overall. You want to put one ahead of the other, 1A, 1B, 1C. You want to put this team ahead. It's almost personal preference at that point, but that's really what I see as the top overall. Not many teams have a truly second strong receiver. I would personally say Puka, Devontae as the number one duo, and I would put CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens number two.
Well, of all the offenses that we saw bust out last year that I think is absolutely taking a step back is the Chicago Bears. And I get it. Ben Johnson is he's a offensive genius. I get it. And he really did help turn around Caleb Williams, which was on the verge of total disaster. And he took a major step forward. But I think it's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back here, Tom. I am not buying it. I mean, the reason that they were one of the better producing offenses is because they mostly trailed heading into the second half of just about every game, Tom, that mattered. So all of a sudden they got every interception, every fumble. They had a lot going their way, but I don't know. I mean, now what? Roma Adunzia with Luther Bird now? Are you sold on Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson in this offense having another big year?
I'm sold on them having a big year counting stats, right? I'm not saying they're going to win as many games. I'm not saying their defense, to your point, last year was incredibly lucky. Like, that was what I was essentially referring to with the variance of turnovers and like things falling. Like, they got every turnover they could possibly, every fumble they recovered. So if other teams, could have some of that luck, they could be a little bit better. But for the Bears, if that turnover luck regresses to what we know is going to be the league average, as what we've seen over years at this point, their offense is going to have to put up yards. So they may lose more games. They may lose more of those one-score games. I think they'll still produce yards and points, but I think they're actually going to take a step back in terms of like a real-life football team outcome. But the yards will be there for these players because it needs to be there, because if those turnovers don't go in their way, then they're going to have to throw the ball more.
Yeah, and the problem is, if you wanted me to really buy Caleb Williams, then I need to see him stop trying to hit home runs every time and dump it off. Why don't you get a bunt single every now and then? Like, move the chains instead of everything trying to be a home run down the field. At some point, that is going to come and burn you. And I think this year could be.
Remember, you and I did the Black Friday game last year when they were at Philly.
Yes.
And there was 10 passes. I was like, you don't have to do that. Just get the first down. It's 7 yards away. Like,
exactly,
why are you
correct, Tom.
20 yards down the field? It's like, and I think they won that game. Did they win that game? Like, Kyle Monangai and Swift had a big game, and they ended up winning it, I think.
Yes.
It's like, why are you doing it? Why are you putting yourself in this position? Don't do that, and just be a little more efficient, and you'll be fine.
And you'll be good. And if he can do that, if he can somehow, Ben Johnson, get Caleb Williams to understand that, good things can happen here. But you're right. That was the most incredibly frustrating game. They should have given Swift the ball ever left and right. They should have given it to him every time. They couldn't stop the run, and yet he's sitting there trying to throw 60-yard passes. It made no sense at all here. But the Bears are going to be volatile. So if the Bears offense kicks it into another gear, then what are we supposed to do with Detroit this year, whose offense, let's face it, wasn't great a year ago? Why? New coordinators. You got Dan Campbell at the end of the year calling plays here, Tom. We'll talk about Detroit coming up here, because half the people I've talked to think Detroit takes another step back offensively. The other half think they've got the right guy in here, and yes, they will be back to what they were a couple of years ago. I don't know. We'll see. Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid. It's usually a 2-horse race. Houston or Jacksonville, with Indy on the outside looking in. we're going to find out, I think, rather quickly in the first month because the scheduling is absolutely brutal this year. And do yourself a favor. Now is the time to start prepping. You talk about contests, Craig, right? Survivor is all about planning.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
I do not think that history suggests the best thing for a quarterback is to start week one. Obviously, you need reps, but we have seen guys sit and benefit from it. I think Anthony Richardson might have a completely different, couldn't have been any worse if the Colts didn't play him his rookie season as the rawest quarterback ever drafted. That didn't help.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
His height, how hard he could throw it, didn't matter. How do you communicate it? How do you look at these guys in the face? An old 10-year vet, right guard over there, and a 9-year tackle that's been. How you gonna look that old man in the face and convince him, hey guys, we're gonna get ready to go down the field. We're gonna score here. Because that's what the great ones do. They walk in the huddle and everybody goes, okay, it's time, let's go.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Ohtani, he's going to be the MVP. The PCA argument, I completely understand. If he ends up winning it, I'm not going to be surprised. I do think it'll be somewhat of the fatigue as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine looking back, Tom, you and I, 10 years and talking about a player in baseball doing what Ohtani's doing and not winning the MVP. I mean, it seems crazy to me.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game time decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Tom Vecchio, as you got to have football on your mind because it is almost here. Week 0 of the college football season kicks off on Saturday. The NFL is wrapping up its preseason. One more game here, week 3. And lots still to be determined, but it does give us a good opportunity to start taking a look at what we have here, because we're not going to see any more starters in preseason football. So now we have a pretty good idea on coordinators and divisions and what is going to be here under center. And we talked about the Chicago Bears last segment, Tom, and to me, it's all about Caleb Williams having to take that next step with Ben Johnson. But it's Ben Johnson's former team that he was the OC at, the Detroit Lions, that once he left, they have been struggling to find any sort of consistency with Jared Goff and company. And now it's Petzing, I think. The guy from Arizona is now another new offensive coordinator. I think the offensive line is worse. They got their center that was supposed to, be the guy that was going to anchor everything. He got injured. No more David Montgomery this year. Call me crazy. I think Detroit's offense, they're going to have to figure out other ways to do it. Maybe that defense takes a step up because I'm not sold on the offense here with Detroit.
For Detroit, what we know, the one thing that I continue to look out for them would be the secondary play for them. And that's one of the things that I think is going to determine a lot because – they have some decent safeties back there. The cornerbacks are really the issue as it has been for a couple of seasons. And that's going to determine a lot of what the Detroit Lions do and or are forced to do. Because if they are forced to get into higher scoring games, I think the yards and the scoring for the Lions will naturally come just because it has to. Is that the ideal way that Dan Campbell wants to do things? Probably not. We know that they brought in Isaiah Pacheco in the offseason, and there were some reports that Kareem Hunt today actually was visiting with the Lions because Pacheco's been banged up. So if they have to refill the David Montgomery role and Pacheco's not able to be healthy to start the season, bringing in a bigger back like Kareem Hunt does make a little bit of sense, and actually could point to what they want to do and have success on offense would be running the ball just a bit more. So I am hesitant on the Lions. I think their ceiling is potentially very high, but that means a lot of things do have to go right for them.
A ton of things have to go right for them, Tom. That's the They weren't barely, I think maybe number 10 or number 11 in rushing the ball. You just gave a boatload of money to one of the most dynamic running backs in the league, but he was dynamic and a great 1-2 punch with David Montgomery. And now all of a sudden it's just going to be him, right? So if that's the case, defenses are going to adjust. I think if you have to worry about Jared Goff dropping back and throwing the ball more, that is going to be a big problem here. And then the big question to me is also, do we anticipate the Baltimore Ravens taking that next step here, Tom? Do we expect the Baltimore Ravens, now that Harbaugh is gone, because apparently Harbaugh was the problem and Monken were the problem. Well, now they're two head coaches with two different teams. It wasn't Lamar Jackson. It wasn't the attitude there it wasn't Derrick Henry getting a lot more wear and tear on those tires. No. It was definitely the OC and the head coach. Well, what happens if it wasn't? I think that's the big problem I have with the Ravens here. I don't know that I'm sold that Lamar has this monster MVP bounce back season. I'm really not, because I'm also not sold on Derrick Henry and the offensive line either. What are you thinking about the Ravens here?
The Ravens, I'm really uncertain on, and Jesse Minter takes over. We know that, and when it comes to Todd Monken no longer being there, they're going with Declan Doyle as the new OC, who has spent one season as an offensive coordinator. He was the offensive coordinator last year with the Bears. Prior to that, he was a tight ends coach for Denver. So he spent one season under Ben Johnson, and all of a sudden he gets a new OC job. We talked about yesterday with the Ravens. If they take time to get going and it's just, the coaches are figuring out how they're going to coach, and they just, there's some bumps in the road just because, hey, it's a new head coach, a new OC. There's just a little bit of a learning curve. Again, with the picture of the playoffs in the AFC, if they fall 2 games behind, they're going to be playing from behind the 8 ball the entire time. And that's the potential downside of the Ravens, is that the coaching staff is not ready to go from week 1, and then they're going to be up against it the whole season.
It's a remade interior offensive line, and like you said, an unproven commodity at OC, and a quarterback, is trying to get healthy. And Lamar, I never thought he was one of the best, readers of the field anyway. So a lot of question marks with the Ravens offensively. We've got much more answers for you, though, as Game Time Decisions continues. Get ready for some baseball here on the Grid. It's usually a 2-horse race, Houston or Jacksonville, with Indy on the outside looking in. We're going to find out, I think, rather quickly in the first month, because the scheduling is absolutely brutal this year. And do yourself a favor. Now is the time to start prepping. You talk about contests, Craig, right? Survivor is all about planning.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
I do not think that history suggests the best thing for a quarterback is to start week 1. Obviously, you need reps, but we have seen guys sit and benefit from it. I think Anthony Richardson might have a completely different, couldn't have been any worse if the Colts didn't play him his rookie season as the rawest quarterback ever drafted. That didn't help.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
His height, how hard he could throw it, didn't matter. How do you communicate it? How do you look at these guys in the face? An old 10-year vet, right guard over there, and a 9-year tackle is been. How you gonna look that old man in the face and convince him, hey guys, we're gonna get ready to go down the field. We're gonna score here. Because that's what the great ones do. They walk in the huddle and everybody goes, okay, it's time, let's go.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Ohtani, he's going to be the MVP. The PCA argument, I completely understand. If he ends up winning it, I'm not going to be surprised. I do think it'll be somewhat of the fatigue as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine looking back, Tom, you and I, 10 years and talking about a player in baseball doing what Ohtani's doing and not winning the MVP. I mean, it seems crazy to me.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Funny. All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Tom Vecchio, and it is that time. We got to make some decisions here on the card tonight, as we've got 15 Major League Baseball games coming your way, and a couple of them starting here in just a few that we went over. But let's start out west here, Tom, and let's go to the Giants taking on the Reds. Now, the Reds, once again, even with Chase Burns on the mound, well, guess what? They couldn't score any runs. Giants did, though. 5-0 win last night at home against the Reds. Now we got Singer versus Hauser. I would love to think over, but in that ballpark and these offenses, I can't trust we're getting runs here either, Tom.
It is so tough to trust these teams to get anything that resembles offense, especially in this park, to your point. Now, over the last 30 days, Cincinnati comes in 27th in the MLB against right-handed pitching with an 81 WRC plus. That is absolutely terrible. And we could probably knock that down just a little bit more, sub 80, if we were to look at that at in Oracle at that park, not Oracle. It's not basketball, but whatever park in San Francisco, because it's even worse there for hitters. And it's not as if San Francisco has been some on fire offense. And yes, Brady Singer has been good, but I find it a tough sell to get 7.5 to get over that for any of these teams tonight.
I agree. Singer has been good, but Hauser, what are we? This game should have runs written all over it, but just can't trust it. I think we can trust, and I like this. I like the Padres to bounce back after giving one to the Pirates last night. Paul Skeens on the mound here for Pittsburgh, and we know he is likely not going 5 innings, Tom. That just does not happen. Why his strikeout prop is 6.5 is beyond me, too, but Padres let one get away last night. Ashcraft was phenomenal. Skeens not in that category, at least not anymore right now. I do like King on the mound for the Padres. It just feels like a good price with the home team here tonight.
It really does, and San Diego has been awesome against righties. They are crushing them over the past month. 119 WRC plus, that's the third best in the MLB. With Skeens just not being on top form, his strikeout rate is still 30%, but his walk rate is also over 10%. And the Padres right now, over the last 30 days, a 10% walk rate. They are getting on base for free. They have power, they have hitting, they have it all. And really, these are two pretty different teams when it comes to the standings. We have a team with the Padres that are in the thick of the NL wildcard race, potentially pushing towards the postseason. The Pirates their season's all but done. A home team at this kind of price seems pretty darn good to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Padres look to get it done here. And if they have a lead heading into the 7th inning, I feel even better about it with that bullpen there. We have said it a lot here on the show that the Athletics are a AAA, AA team, and they should be faded every chance you get. That took center stage, even with Minnesota getting swept by the Giants over the weekend. Even Minnesota can right things by going into Sacramento, winning 9-6 last night. Finally, Buxton looks like he has figured some things out. And with Taj Bradley on the mound, they should be able to score some more runs against Jump and company tonight, no?
They should. We saw all the scoring last night from the Twins, and what I've been saying all day about this matchup is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We're fading the Athletics. You want to take a team total for the Twins? You want to take a game total? I think they both go over. We should not be looking to take unders against the Athletics pitching staff over the next 5-ish weeks until the season ends. They're going to give up a lot of runs.
Ton of runs here. Team total also not a bad look here. Twins. I'm shocked it's not a little higher, but Taj Bradley has been good, especially against sub 500 teams. I think he'll be able to handle business here tonight in that one. We had mentioned it last hour. Bears repeating. Tom and I are not buying Cal Raleigh in the home run market tonight. We think the K market is better. I think he strikes out a few times, but it's Aaron Nola for the Phillies, and it's Kirby for the Mariners. And boy, it feels like this is a good bounce back spot for the Phillies. in this one, but they'll need Aaron Nola to do his part here.
They really will, and Nola's been pretty good. I have been low on Nola since the start of the season. I actually have an under on his season-long strikeout prop, which is going to come down to the wire. But I have not been a believer in Nola from the beginning of the season through the middle of the season. And all of a sudden, recently, Aaron Nola kind of looks like his old self. Kind of looks pretty good. Over the last 30 days, he got 2.51 ERA, which is pretty darn good. His strikeouts are over 10 K per 9. His walks are relatively under control. The home runs are still an issue for him. 1.88 home runs per 9 over the last 30 days for Nola is still a slight issue for him. But frankly, when I'm betting on the Phillies tonight, which I'm going to be on their money line, I'm not betting on just Nola. I'm betting on the totality of the Phillies. I want that offense also going up against the Mariners pitching staff and Kirby, who has not been good as of late.
He is not. And it's been a really crazy season for them. But I do think little night's sleep here. Philadelphia be right back in action here tonight. I certainly like that play. Again, the West has been terrible, but the Texas Rangers have won, 4 of their last 5 or 5 of their last 6. And they've got the White Sox again. Jacob deGrom against Anthony Kay here. And I don't know, the White Sox have just fallen back down to earth here a little bit. But can we trust the Red Sox offensively now?
After last night's explosion for the Rangers, it's still tough to trust them on a night in, night out basis. A 7.5 total isn't super high. We're not dealing with any major win that would allow me to think that we're going to get a ton of home runs. I think DeGrom continues to cruise. He was great in his last outing. I wasn't high on him in his last outing because that was his first start coming off of the tricep injury or tricep issue that he had, the tricep fatigue. I want to back the White Sox at home just because they've been so good at home overall in the season. But to your point, the White Sox falling back down to earth. I see this as a Rangers spot, but I'm not super confident. It's a lean for me tonight. It's not really a play.
Yeah, Kay has actually been much better than people think here for the White Sox. You know, they've had a few guys that have really pitched and punched above their weight this season, but he has lost 4 of his last 5 at home here at Rate Field. But it was 2-0 against the Braves on Thursday. It was a quality start for him. The under field, is it too low of an under, Tom?
Maybe, if you want to get, I would love the 8 just to get a little bit of insurance, just to get that push. Right. You'd probably have to put in the alt line to pay the juice. It is 7.5 minus 124 to the under. So the juice would probably be in the 160, 175 range. But, last night's game went over. Tonight's game goes under. I think it could be as easy as that.
Yeah, I think and DeGrom did look really good last time out. 10 strikeouts I think he had against Houston, was it? He was lighting him up here. So if he is healthy, then yes, Texas has a great shot at least beginning to pull away in this American League West division, which nobody wants to seem to win, Tom, and it's getting uglier. And right now, if you had to make a wager, as you can see the odds there, who's it on?
To me, it's still on the Rangers. I've said it throughout the season. I have a future on the Rangers to make the playoffs. It's only at plus 120. It's obviously not those plus 170 odds. I have a couple paths out. But the way the Astros look, I can't buy into them. The Mariners have been dead to me for months at this point, essentially. They do have a very easy end of the season where they're playing the A's and they're playing the Angels, and they have a series against the Rockies. So they do have a really easy road to end things, the Mariners that would be, but I just can't buy into them right now.
No, and we'll talk about the Yankees and Astros coming up here tonight as their set begins. And a big series, I think, for both these teams who are trying to kind of steady the ship. Yankees trying to find some offense. Astros trying to find some. I don't know that either does in this series here, but it is an interesting pitchers battle here tonight. We'll talk about it as Game Time decisions, getting you ready for just that when we come back here on the Grid. It's usually a 2-horse race, Houston or Jacksonville, with Indy on the outside looking in. We're going to find out, I think, rather quickly in the first month because the scheduling is absolutely brutal this year. And do yourself a favor. Now is the time to start prepping. You talk about contests, Craig, right? Survivor is all about planning.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
I do not think that history suggests the best thing for a quarterback is to start week one. Obviously, you need reps, but we have seen guys sit and benefit from it. I think Anthony Richardson might have a completely different, couldn't have been any worse if the Colts didn't play him his rookie season as the rawest quarterback ever drafted. That didn't help.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
His height, how hard he could throw it, didn't matter. How do you communicate it? How do you look at these guys in the face? An old 10-year vet, right guard over there, and a 9-year tackle is better. How you gonna look that old man in the face and convince him, hey guys, we're gonna get ready to go down the field. We're gonna score here. Because that's what the great ones do. They walk in the huddle and everybody goes, okay, it's time, let's go.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Ohtani, he's going to be the MVP. The PCA argument, I completely understand. If he ends up winning it, I'm not going to be surprised. And I do think it'll be somewhat of the fatigue as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine looking back, Tom, you and I 10 years and talking about a player in baseball doing what Ohtani's doing and not winning the MVP. I mean, it seems crazy to me.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Raineri. He is Tom Vecchio, and we are getting you ready for what should be a pretty good night of Major League Baseball here as we're T-minus, 30 games, maybe, even less than that, before the end of the regular season. Postseason will be here before we know it. Still a lot to be determined. A couple of games underway already, Tom. We got Red Sox and Marlins, no score. We've got the Rays and the Tigers, no score. And I think the Rockies and the Nats just getting ready for first pitch there. And that brings us to the Yankees and the Astros. Yankees at home. Will Warren taking the mound. I thought he'd already be relegated to the bullpen, but injuries have caused the Yankees to pivot here a little bit. Will Warren still, his biggest problem is lefties. So there's one lefty in this lineup that if you walked him, I'd be okay. Just, as a matter of fact, you don't even have to pitch to him, intentionally walk him, and I'm okay. There's one lefty you can't pitch to in this team. Outside of that, I think it's a pretty good matchup for him and the Yankees, no?
It certainly shapes up to be that. And, like I said at the top, I'm going with a Warren under outs prop tonight. Under 15.5 outs recorded is minus 125. And again, Warren has been struggling as of late. And as you're alluding to, him being moved to the bullpen is really what should have happened with Rodon coming back and, Fried, but now Weathers goes down and Fried is on the IL. So it is shaping up Warren will stay there. But regardless, he's been struggling as of late. His home runs are up. His walks are up. The BABIP is up. Houston isn't some powerhouse on offense. I understand that. But the Yanks are coming off a rest day yesterday. The bullpen is charged and ready to go. So Warren could go out there for his 5 innings, be fine, may not be, totally touched up or not get totally touched up by the Astros offense, but they still pull him after 5 and they just turn things over to what is really a great bullpen.
It has been. And I got to tell you, the kid coming out, Ethan Pecco for the Astros, just his second start. He pitched against the Angels to open up his career. 2 runs, 3 hits, 3 2/3 innings. He did strike out 4. He did walk 3. But I believe there was only 1 or 2 hard-hit balls in that game against the Angels. When you get a guy like this, who appears to have the velocity and has the stuff, but the nerves kind of take over. Now that he's gotten 1 start under his belt, bullpen also pretty good for the Astros. And you got a Yankees team that in the second half has a 78 WRC plus against right-handers, Tom. I don't care who's throwing out there at that point. You can't trust the Yankees to come up with enough runs, can you?
You really can't. And it has been a tough go at things for the Yankees offense. Like you said, against righties, they've been struggling big time. And, this is part of the thing that, we always like to talk about, or I always like to talk about when MLB. It's like you can't be looking at the Yankees as an entire season because some of that sample size includes when Aaron Judge was there, right? So you have to isolate the sample size of what did they look like recently? What did they look like with their current active roster, whatever it may be? And they just aren't getting it done right now. And the Astros bullpen is, a little bit better than it was earlier in the season. And I do not see this as a high-scoring game or high-scoring series really at all.
So there is a game tonight in which just two guys that I absolutely love to fade, and I don't know which way to go in this game. And that's anytime that you get the Baltimore Orioles and Chris Bassett going up against Liberatore and the Cardinals. I mean, Tom, but it's at Busch, so we know, that's a little bit run suppressive. But how do we not bet an over of some sort here with these two guys on the mound?
It's so tough. I saw this matchup, and I've been fading Chris Bassett for years. Chris Bassett is terrible. He probably shouldn't even have a job in the MLB when it's all said and done. He's like that bad of a pitcher for the past 2 seasons. But look at him. The Cardinals are not a team I've been high on. I don't like their pitching staff. They seemingly get it done, and credit to them. But the 8 is really, really tough in this park. It just feels so tough to get to with this Cardinals offense that can be so hit or miss. The Orioles can be also so hit or miss. Pete Alonso was on fire, but we're not getting production from anyone else. Frankly, I see this as a Cardinals money line play. I don't love it, but if I want to fade Chris Bassett, I might just go with the money line. A Cardinals team that's desperate for a win, especially coming off a 3-game losing streak. They're desperate for a win, and they're back at home right now.
Oh, man, it's got to be an over of some sort here. My goodness. But, man, the power as Baltimore, right? We're talking about home runs, and that could be the difference here. Baltimore has those hitters. The Cardinals, not so much here. So it does kind of feel like if I need an Alonso, if I need somebody to come up with a big hit or a home run to kind of bust this game open, it feels like that might be the way to go. What are we doing with the Brewers and the Mets, though? What seemed to be an automatic fade, Tom, not too long ago. Well, the Mets bats have come alive here. They are at home. Thornton's going. Harrison's going for Milwaukee. What are we thinking? 7.5 here is what the total is right now.
Yeah, Kyle Harrison is really interesting, and Thornton, it'll present an interesting matchup because Zach Thornton doesn't really have a big sample size. This is his first year in the majors. Harrison, I'm not saying has a big sample size recently because he's just come back from the IL. He has been good over his last 14 or so innings over the last 30 days. He does have an ERA sub-2. But Thornton is really the pitcher that I'm focusing in on this game. So I actually want to go to a Brewers player prop with William Contreras for 2+ hit run RBI. He doesn't have immense power numbers, but what he has is that he doesn't strike out. He's sitting at the heart of what I'm going to call the top of the Brewers lineup with Churio, Terang, him there, and then Andrew Vaughn. So the power at the top of the lineup is essentially what I'm buying into. Thornton has been struggling big time against righties. So 2+ HRR for William Contreras on the Brewers.
Like that there. And the Brewers, 6 games, 5.5 games ahead of the Chicago Cubs in the National League Central. They've made the playoffs now 7 times in the last 8 seasons. They've won 5 division titles. I don't know why we always get surprised with the Brewers this time of year, Tom. It's all they do. Like, this is what they do. They did avoid a scare, by the way. They looked, I know Garrett Mitchell, they were a little concerned about him going in there, but I do believe that he is okay. I'd like to say an over, but Harrison's been good. Milwaukee is not going to hit a ton of home runs to blow this game open. Give me the under with 2 teams coming off of rest that both should have won their games on Sunday, but gave them back there. All right, we got Dodgers, Braves still to talk about. Some best bets as game time decision wraps up. We'll do it next here on The Grid. It's usually a two-horse race, Houston or Jacksonville, with Indy on the outside looking in. We're going to find out, I think, rather quickly in the first month, because the scheduling is absolutely brutal this year. And do yourself a favor. Now is the time to start prepping. You talk about contests, Craig, right? Survivor is all about planning.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
I do not think that history suggests the best thing for a quarterback is to start week one. Obviously, you need reps, but we have seen guys sit and benefit from it. I think Anthony Richardson might have a completely different, couldn't have been any worse if the Colts didn't play him his rookie season as the rawest quarterback ever drafted. Like, that didn't help.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
His height, how hard he could throw it, didn't matter. How do you communicate it? How do you look at these guys in the face? An old 10-year vet, right guard over there, and a 9-year tackle that's been. How you gonna look that old man in the face and convince him, hey guys, we're gonna get ready to go down the field. We're gonna score here. Because that's what the great ones do. They walk in the huddle and everybody goes, okay, it's time, let's go.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Ohtani, he's going to be the MVP. The PCA argument, I completely understand. If he ends up winning it, I'm not going to be surprised. I do think it'll be somewhat of the fatigue as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine looking back, Tom, you and I, 10 years and talking about a player in baseball doing what Ohtani's doing and not winning the MVP. I mean, it seems crazy to me.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Tom Vecchio as we look to close out this edition together. Getting you ready, of course, for plenty of Major League Baseball coming up. 3 games underway right now. No score in the Red Sox, Marlins, Rays, Tigers, or Rockies and the Nats. But Game Time Decisions coming up just after the top of the hour. They have got you covered the rest of the way through. And Tom, a couple of games that we'll touch on here. Dodgers and the Braves. Glass now back for the Dodgers. Bryce Elder for the Braves. Maybe a look-ahead series here at Truist Park of what we might get next month in a postseason matchup. But not a big price one way or the other. What are we thinking here with the Braves and the Dodgers?
This is a really, really tough game to handicap. You know, Glasnow's making his first start off the IL. He threw 77 pitches in his final rehab start on August 19th down in OKC. Went 5.1, only 1 walk, 1 run, 1 hit. He had 9 strikeouts. It is AAA. You know, looking at this price, 2 things come to mind. One, the books are putting the Dodgers price there because they're never going to put them close to even money because that's just too much of a liability for them. And B, I would say this is Braves or pass for me. I don't want to be laying that kind of price with the Dodgers in Glasnow's first start back when the Braves are at home. And yes, the Braves have been slumping a little bit as of late, but I'll take a home team at a plus 140-ish price.
Truist Park has been good to Atlanta, man. It really has, Tom. I mean, they have been pretty good at home. And listen, Bryce Elder has shown that, he's still pretty good. He's actually thrown. He threw against them back in May, I think, and had a pretty good outing there. Just keep the ball in the ballpark. If you keep the ball in the ballpark, I think they can keep this thing close enough. The bullpen, I think I give the edge to Atlanta. Are they getting a decent price on the run line?
Plus
if
1.5 is minus 128 is really not that for a home team. For a team that's going to win the division, essentially, you're getting the plus 1.5 at home. I like it.
Yeah, in a ballpark in which they have been very, very good at home this year. So, yeah, and it's not like they can just kick back because they do have Philadelphia rattling off a whole lot of wins, chasing them down also. So this is quietly a big series. And we talked about this game last night. Guardians and the Angels, kind of sleepy, but the Angels have been playing some pretty good baseball, Tom, and they'll have Gavin Williams for the Guardians taking on Urena here for the Angels. And listen, anybody been better than Gavin Williams for the Guardians this year? No. He has been lights out for them. They finally put some wins together here on this road trip, but cheap price, I think minus 140, 150 for the better pitcher, no?
It really, Gavin Williams has been unbelievable in this recent stretch. He comes in with 14.29 strikeouts per nine over the last 30 days, is in a 28.1 inning sample size. He does get touched up for a few runs here or there. It's 1.59 home runs per nine. His ERA is sitting at 3.5 essentially. So he does give up a few runs here or there, but the strikeouts have been unbelievable. You could look to back the Guards in the first five if you want to lay the half a run or something along those lines, because Gavin Williams is, and this is not to say that Urena has not been good for the Angels, because he's been pretty solid, but Williams has been to another level.
Yeah, it's so true. It really has been. Now, if the offense can finally put it together, I think they should be able to get this one at a pretty decent price here. But like anything else, you got to believe it when you see it with them, because they just have not been that trustworthy altogether. My goodness here. All right, so Royals and Blue Jays we talked about last hour. Scherzer and Lugo, we're just going over 8 at the Rogers Center, right? Why would we look at anything else here?
No, you can't. And listen, I'm not going to take a shot on the Royals money line. I know they've been super hot as late, but over 8 is almost my favorite play of the night, essentially.
I love it. I'm with you there. Gasper, a solo shot home run for the Red Sox off of Phillips. They're up 1-0 in that one. Still no score, Rays and Tigers. Rockies and the Nationals also no score in the bottom of the first. Again, in-game live game day is straight ahead. Gabe Morency, Kevin Walsh, they'll have all the action from the games here tonight. Get ready for Yankees and Astros. That's coming up. Mets and Brewers. And I'm looking forward to this Dodgers and Braves series. I think this is going to really good litmus test for these two teams. And don't sleep on Jacob deGrom here tonight. I don't know if they'll score any runs for him, but don't sleep on him anyway. I think he's back to normal. Tom, always a pleasure, my man. We get to do it again tomorrow for another edition of Game Time Decisions. But get ready. Walsh and Morency coming your way as in-game live game day takes over here on the grid. Enjoy the games. It's usually a two-horse race. Houston or Jacksonville, with Indy on the outside looking in. We're going to find out, I think, rather quickly in the first month, because the scheduling is absolutely brutal this year. And do yourself a favor. Now is the time to start prepping. You talk about contests, Craig, right? Survivor is all about planning.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
I do not think that history suggests the best thing for a quarterback is to start week one. Obviously, you need reps, but we have seen guys sit and benefit from it. I think Anthony Richardson might have a completely different, couldn't have been any worse if the Colts didn't play him his rookie season as the rawest quarterback ever drafted. That didn't help.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
His height, how hard he could throw it, didn't matter. How do you communicate it? How do you look at these guys in the face? An old 10-year vet, right guard over there, and a 9-year tackle that's been. How you gonna look that old man in the face and convince him, hey guys, we're gonna get ready to go down the field. We're gonna score here. Because that's what the great ones do. They walk in the huddle and everybody goes, okay, it's time, let's go.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Ohtani, he's going to be the MVP. The PCA argument, I completely understand. If he ends up winning it, I'm not going to be surprised. I do think it'll be somewhat of the fatigue as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine looking back, Tom, you and I, 10 years and talking about a player in baseball doing what Ohtani's doing and not winning the MVP. I mean, it seems crazy to me.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.